What's going on, guys? Agent Jim Shorts coming at you here with another video for yins today. The video has a number 10 in the title, and it's not a janky life hack compilation. Marvel has big plans for their movies in the next few years, and we're going to take a look at what to expect in the next 10 Marvel movies. I'll be filling you in on everything we need to know about the upcoming movies, rumors, and if we don't have any concrete info, I'll be gracing you with my fabulous opinion as to what should be happening in each film. Also, Marvel has a bunch of TV shows coming out on Disney+. I won't be covering any of them in this video, but if you guys are interested, let me know in the comments and I'll consider doing another one of these for the upcoming Marvel TV projects. Without any further ado, let's take a jaunt down the Marvel Big Road and check out the top 10 upcoming Marvel movies. The first movie on our list kinda has an asterisk by it, and it isn't really a Marvel movie, but for the sake of making a top 10 list to be all trendy, I decided to include it. And of course, this movie is New Mutants. New Mutants is starring Maisie Williams and was originally a Fox movie that was meant to be set in the X-Men universe, but when Disney bought out Fox, New Mutants suddenly became a part of the House of Mouse family. This is a movie that has been in production for the last 5 years or so and was supposed to come out in April 2018, but it was delayed to not interfere with the other Fox movies coming out at the same time. And as I said, it was eventually brought to Disney. Frankly, I don't think our guy Mickey knew what to do with this movie. It's a superhero horror hybrid that's set in a mental institution. The kids here are not X-Men. They're patients trying to survive their harsh reality, and it seems something is keeping them trapped in this institution where there's danger around each corner. While I'm a bitch and don't like horror movies, this does seem like a pretty cool concept, so I may just have to force myself to check it out. The thing is, this is very much not like the MCU. I think Disney was really unsure what to do with this, and my guess is if the movie is a success, then they may use it as an avenue to introduce mutants into the MCU, and if it's bad, they'll just say it was a Fox movie that they had to poop out due to contractual obligations. But regardless, it seems like an interesting and different flick that I'll probably be checking out. New Mutants hits theaters on April 3rd, 2020. Our second movie on the list is the Black Widow spin-off film starring Scarlett Johansson. This movie is actually set before Avengers Infinity War, and it's thought to take place shortly after Captain America Civil War. This film is looking like it'll show us Black Widow facing her past demons and reuniting with her lost family. I think this movie has a lot of potential for the MCU. Marvel has a very solid track record and a great brand, but I will say, some of their movies can come off very cookie cutter. I always look at Ant-Man when I think of this concept. I really enjoyed Ant-Man, and I thought it was a good movie, but at the same time I wasn't wowed like I was with some of the other movies. It seems like a very safe and familiar superhero arc that would be a good bet to make a decent movie. But I think if Marvel wants to start off Phase 4 with a bang, this Black Widow movie should lean into some new elements. Natasha is not a superpowered god. She's a human. She's a badass spy. Make this a super spy movie. Show us stealth, assassinations, and thrills to keep us on the edge of our seats. Use Natasha's harsh Russian upbringing to set a dark and bleak tone to this movie. Allow us to see how dangerous the Taskmaster is and how distrusting she is of everyone involved in the Red Room. Use this distrust to make a real feeling of isolation and angst. Show us how distrusting and damaged Natasha is. Let us empathize with her and bring even more weight to her sacrifice in Endgame. All in all, I think this movie has really cool potential, but I think Marvel could very well play it safe with another Ant-Man type movie. And while a lot of people may say, hey, I loved Ant-Man, and I don't mind that Marvel played it safe with that movie. And in fairness, I actually find myself in that camp as well. But the issue is, I think we were fine with average Marvel movies a few years ago, but we've gotten to the point where just an average movie isn't going to cut it. This movie is a statement that Marvel is making, letting us know what to expect for the upcoming years. It needs to nail this movie, and I think doing something a bit different than the usual Marvel spin could be exactly what's needed. As a fall baby, I'll probably be going to see this next movie around my birthday, and that is The Eternals. The Eternals is based off a comic of the same name, written by the legendary Jack Kirby. The basic premise of the Eternals is that there were ancient humans who were mutated by the Celestials, who are sort of creators of the universe in the Marvel world. These mutated humans are called the Eternals due to the fact that they were effectively immortal. Not a ton is known on this movie, but we have several things to get very excited about. One is that the cast looks absolutely fabulous. Angelina Jolie is leading up the big names accompanied by Game of Thrones brothers Kit Harington and Richard Madden. I wonder if he always goes by Richard or if he uses any nicknames. Dick Madden has a nice ring to it, but that does sound kind of crass. Dickie Madden. Yep, that's it. Dickie Madden. Anyway, a full cast and good material gives plenty of hope for the movie. The basic premise is rumored to be that these Eternals are thousands of years old and are secretly living among humans on Earth. Our boy Dickie's character is named Icarus and leads the Eternals. We also know that Kit Harington is playing Black Knight, a regular human who inherited his family's magical sword. On a personal note, I'm a bit worried about Kumail Nanji's performance in the film. While I love him in Silicon Valley, I'm really struggling to picture him in the Marvel Universe. He's so pathetically annoying, which is fabulous in Silicon Valley, but I worry his overall silliness will take away from the more serious tone. But that's a minor concern, and it'll probably amount to nothing. Marvel usually knows what they're doing. To summarize, the overall plot is still a bit murky, but the Eternals is shaping up to be a cool new entry in the MCU family. The Eternals will be out November 6, 2020. The next film we're going to take a look at is the MCU's first entry in 2021. Of the 10 movies, I think this might be my dark horse favorite to quietly be the best of the bunch. This is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I really hope this is going to be a fun departure from the classic MCU template, and it'll take us to a classic martial arts story. Shang-Chi is a martial arts master in the comics. He was trained by his father, who was secretly a very evil man. When Shang-Chi found out, he turned his back on his father in order to pursue good. This movie will also be introducing the real Mandarin. We know the Mandarin from Iron Man 3 was a fake who stole the moniker from someone else. It is confirmed that the actual Mandarin will be the villain Shang-Chi needs to overcome. As I started with this, I'm so excited for this movie. I'm a sucker for a good martial arts film, and I don't seek them out as much as I probably should, but when I do watch, I'm usually hooked. I think this character is so unique for Marvel and could be such a fun departure from the cookie-cutter Marvel film. If done right, I think the movie could be a whole lot of fun. I am worried that it could come off a bit cheesy, but I think a really gritty, magical martial arts movie could turn out to be really cool. Shang-Chi is a great character that could really freshen up the Marvel roster. This movie will drop in theaters February 12th, 2021. Our fifth film on the list could potentially be the weirdest of the bunch. This, of course, is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This film will be returning star Benedict Cumberbatch, but it will also have Elizabeth Olsen co-starring in her role as Scarlet Witch. This movie has been hard to research. It's been discussed several times, but much of that discussion was from the director of the original Doctor Strange, who was slated to direct the sequel but now has left the project due to, quote, creative differences. This is a bit concerning because I really enjoyed the psychedelic trip that was Doctor Strange 1. The rumor is the director wanted this movie to be a bit more thriller or horror-ish. It seems that was not flying for Disney. As I've said many times, I'm not a fan of horror movies, but I think that would be an interesting take on this property. Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch deal with such dark and creepy subject matter, I really think a scarier tone would set this movie apart as an interesting gem in the MCU. That being said, I think the movie has significant implications into the future of Marvel's franchise, and will create a lot of continuity in world building, which the plot of Phase 4 will follow. Look at the title of this film, Multiverse of Madness. It makes you think even though Mysterio was lying in Far From Home, that there's actually a multiverse out there to explore. For those of you outside the comic realm, the multiverse is a concept that there are other realities similar to ours, where other versions of ourselves and others exist. Sometimes these worlds are very much like the ones we know, but other times they're a vast departure. This can be an avenue for interesting one-off movies that take place in a different reality from the normal MCU. It's full of potential and could really be a huge step for the MCU. In my opinion, it looks like Disney is trying to do something different with this movie, but they are more concerned with building the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole instead of just building one true crazy movie. This movie is set to debut on May 7th, 2021. The next movie on our list almost didn't happen. This film was so close to not existing in the MCU, but a drunk call via Tom Holland and some savvy negotiating resulted in a Spider-Man 3 film. Yes, an untitled Spider-Man 3 film will be taking place in the MCU. The third film for the character will look to see how Peter will deal with Mysterio ruining his reputation and revealing his secret identity at the end of Far From Home. There have been rumors that the villain for this movie will be none other than Kraven the Hunter. For those of you who are not familiar with this evildoer, Kraven the Hunter is a big game hunter who's always looking for the next big challenge to kill. There's been various different backstories and incarnations of the character, but I think one could play really well in the MCU, and that's one from the Ultimate Universe. This version of Kraven is actually a reality TV star who broadcasts his hunts on TV. He's looking to increase his ratings, so he said he'll go after the infamous Spider-Man of New York City. I think with a quick rewrite, Kraven can be an online personality who streams his hunts, and it could be a really clever angle for Marvel to take. Maybe there could be some relationship with him and J. Jonah Jameson as online personalities. Anyway, as far as his powers go, they can vary from story to story, but he's generally somewhat enhanced reflexes, increased strength, but is not quite up to Spider-Man's level of strength. That being said, he's very skilled with a plethora of weaponry, and is very skilled at traps and stealth. He could be a really cool foe for our wall crawler to go up against, but all that being said, Kraven is not officially confirmed for this movie, so it's possible we get someone completely different for Spider-Man to battle against. Regardless, it should be interesting to see how Marvel handles this character. Many of you have seen my other videos on the life of Iron Man and my concerns regarding Spider-Man, So not to rehash those videos, I will just say, I hope Marvel will continue to make Peter Parker struggle and not just hand him the Stark legacy. This movie is slated to drop on July 16th, 2021. At number 7 on the list, we have Thor: Love and Thunder. Not much is known about this film, seeing as it's almost 2 years out from being released, but the thing we do know is that Natalie Portman's Jane Foster will be returning in this film. The widespread belief is that she'll be taking a page out of the comics and will become female Thor. There's been a lot of backlash about this due to some people feeling like they are ruining the character of Thor at the altar of feminism, but I will state I actually didn't mind the comics where Jane Foster was Thor. They were interesting and developed our male Thor characters in some interesting ways. In the comics, the Thor we know and love becomes unworthy to pick up his hammer and is left in a dark depression. Jane discovers that she's able to wield the hammer and can fill in for Thor while he's unable to use his birthright. The Thor we know eventually starts going by the name Odin's son, while giving Jane his blessing to go by the name Thor. Why I like this story way more than I assumed I would is due to the fact that Jane Foster was dying of cancer at the time. So when she picks up the hammer, she transforms into an Asgardian warrior, but whenever she transforms, it undoes all the cancer treatment she's been going through. Being Thor is effectively killing her. This dynamic between saving her own life and saving the lives of others is super compelling and could be done really well on screen. But I believe Marvel must do 2 things in order to make this work. 1, they need to make sure that we like Jane's character. Movies tend to have a big problem recently when they want to make a tough female lead. They just tend to make her unlikable and flat, aka Captain Marvel. They need to show us that Jane is a badass while also keeping her as a relatable and fun character. I think the idea that she has the great power comes great responsibility complex could make her wielding the hammer while battling cancer a good way to get this across. The second thing Marvel must do is do not ruin the Thor Odin's son we know and love. A lot of times when Marvel has one character pick up the mantle of another character, it is at the expense of the original character. So don't put Thor down just to make Jane seem cool. Allow the Thor we know to still be the funny badass we love, and allow Jane to shine via her own merit. These things are easier said than done, but if Marvel can manage to thread this needle, I think we could have an epic duo on our hands. This movie will be dropping in theaters on November 5th, 2021. We're getting to the point on this list where very little is known about these upcoming projects. This makes it a bit difficult to research and predict anything accurately, but I will at least speculate. The 8th movie on this list is the Black Panther sequel. This film is in huge demand and will likely be a box office smash. If I could have my way, I'd like to see the nation of Wakanda more fleshed out and understood. We saw glimpses of it, and we know that T'Challa was trying to change things for the better. I think it would be really interesting to see the social changes this more liberal and global-minded leader has created within a long-time closed society. Are the citizens really open to these changes? And how does the rest of the world view Wakanda now that they are no longer hiding? I think these things are interesting topics to explore, but I really hope Disney doesn't decide to do the King Gets the Throne story again. Like, Black Panther is low-key the original live-action Lion King, lol. But anyway, I'd like to see an original story discussing various issues stemming from the decisions that T'Challa has made. Again, we're not totally sure of what the story will be or who he's going to be fighting, but if I could make my own script, I'd show Doctor Doom, the leader of his own country, Latveria, wage war on Wakanda. I think that would be an awesome way to introduce Doctor Doom and maybe tease the Fantastic Four. And it will give Wakanda a common threat to unite in, rather than having another civil war. Black Panther 2 is set to release on May 6, 2022. The 9th movie on our list is probably the most anticipated by most people. That is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This movie was actually supposed to come out this year, but after the freakout regarding James Gunn's past tweets, the film hit a big rough patch. Gunn was fired because Twitter decided to lay an egg and be all pissy. The whole cast basically said they wouldn't do the movie without him, and he was eventually rehired. The issue is, during this time when he was fired and then Marvel rehired him, James Gunn signed on to write for the new Suicide Squad movie for DC. Due to this, Marvel had to wait for Gunn to be finished with Suicide Squad before he can get back to work on Guardians of the Galaxy. The good news is that with Gunn back on board, he can finish his original story arc that's already been laid out for the past 2 films. With this, we can assume that we'll see Adam Warlock in Guardians 3, as he was teased at the end of Guardians 2, and they will likely be fighting the gold people Rocket stole the batteries from. The really interesting question is, what happens to Thor? The original movie would take place before Thor: Love and Thunder, and if you recall, Thor went with the Guardians of the Galaxy at the end of Endgame. It was rumored that Thor would be in Guardians Volume 3 and be one of the team. So this leaves Marvel with the decision of rewriting one or both of the movies, and or doing some kind of time jump and have someone recounting the story of Guardians 3 as if it was in the past. Regardless, this movie should be a blast as always with James Gunn at the helm. Guardians 3's release date has not yet been disclosed, but it'll likely be towards the end of 2022. And we finally made it! We're at number 10. Let's go! While it is exciting to be on the final movie of the list, there is a bit of a caveat with this one. While it's the last movie that Marvel has announced, I wouldn't be surprised if an Avengers movie or some other collaborative project jumps in front of this one and becomes number 10 on the list. But seeing as there's no way to predict what or when that would be, we just have to go with what we know, and that is Blade. Yes, Marvel is bringing Blade to the MCU. Mahershala Ali, I'm sure I'm butchering his name, will be portraying Marvel's MCU version of the iconic vampire hunter. Now, he's a very talented actor, but I am a bit miffed of this casting choice by Marvel, because he already co-starred as the villain Cottonmouth in Luke Cage Season 1. It just seems a bit lazy when Marvel recycles these actors who are already in the MCU, even if it was just for the Netflix shows. We have no idea what to expect from this movie other than the fact that it's been announced and it will hopefully be really cool. As for requests I have for the movie, I think it would be really cool if Wesley Snipes could at least make an appearance in the movie in some fashion. For those of you who don't know, Snipes played Blade 2 decades ago and was really the first person to launch this superhero movie craze. I think it would be such a cool homage to Snipes in his past films. The quick breakdown of Blade is that he's a half vampire, and in many versions his character has some kind of powers of a vampire without their aversion to sunlight or need for blood. He's a badass with a silver samurai sword who kills vampires. Need I say more? Blade is still without a release date, but I'd be looking for the Daywalker to show up sometime in 2023. Well, this is a lot to take over the next few years, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Marvel has a plan, and I'm on board to ride whatever new story they're going to tell. Wow, you made it to the end of this video. That's pretty crazy. It's been a long one, and I've had so much fun making it. If you enjoyed this, I'd really appreciate a like and a subscribe. Also, leave a comment, tell me what you think about this. Like I said, I really enjoyed making it, and as I'm sitting here recording this, I may have lacerated my kidney. I'm not really sure. That's been a whole thing, but if you want to hear more, maybe follow me on one of my social media channels. The link for those are in the description below. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and stay frosty.